everybody. Welcome back to Geeky Clinicians podcast. We have the honor and privilege today of having Dr. Pauline Belton as our guest, and looking forward to hearing lots of wonderful things from her. But as always, I am Dr. Deborah Dantzler, Chief Geek here at Geeky Clinicians, and my other Geeky Clinicians will introduce themselves.
Hi, I'm Sandra, PMRP Geeky Clinician.
Excellent. Thank you. And so today we have the honor of having Dr. Pauline Belton, and she is your therapy doctor, a licensed clinical professional counselor, board certified hypnotherapist, clinical graduate supervisor, educational specialist, adjunct professor, psychological diagnostician. That's a mouthful. Talk radio host of Your Therapy Doctor, Amazon number one best-selling author.
Come on.
And speaker.
Right? Snap this. Come on now.
So Dr. Belton is the go-to mental health specialist with a passion for educating, advocating, and bringing awareness to everyone looking to live their best life on purpose. With over 30 years of mental health care experience in school systems, public and private sector, community and private practice, Dr. Belton dedicated to helping individuals, families, organizations achieve balance, resilience, and personal growth. Your therapy doctor, Dr. Belton combines evidence-based strategies with compassionate approach, offering therapeutic workshops, trainings, consulting services that empower her clients to overcome challenges and thrive. Her expertise spans a wide range of areas, including emotional intelligence, stress management, building resilience, and workplace mental health. Welcome, Dr. Belton.
Wow. I was like, who are you talking about?
Hot girl.
That's a lot.
Pauline, Dr. Pauline, one
Yes.
thing that we always start with talking about here is at Geeky Clinicians, the whole reason we're called Geeky Clinicians is because we get geeked up about this work. We get excited.
Yes.
We're passionate about this. We love the field and aspects of teaching and learning and growing. And so I want to hear your origin story, your clinical origin story. Your journey of how did you get here to being the amazing Dr. Pauline Belton that we know today?
Oh, man. Wow. The origin story is a lot of twists and turns. I'll say it that way. I actually started out as a when I was in college, my go-to thing was to be a Supreme Court judge.
Okay.
And then I decided, I'm in criminal justice. I am in political law. I want to go to the CIA. I want to be a forensic psychologist, right? My father cut that down real quick. I was a baby girl of 4. So he's like, no, you're not leaving us, right? And so my origin story actually started, I have a bachelor's of science in criminal justice and psychology. I then quickly went to school counseling because one of my starts as a criminal justice major was to intern as a probation and parole counselor for the Department of Juvenile Justice in South Carolina. Mm-hmm. So I ended up actually doing my master's in school counseling education because guess what? My youngest person that I had in probation and parole was 7 years old.
Wow, 7.
And yes. So many moons ago, I was like, we have to be able to catch them earlier than this. Like, who's watching these babies?
Yeah.
Like, what is happening? Do the parents? And I found myself having really courageous conversations with parents on structure, on systems, on relating to their children in very impoverished and very difficult situations, right? But also finding that they needed support too.
Mm-hmm.
So
Yeah.
I did that, and I ended up being a school counselor. I started out as a school counselor, and then I decided, oh, but I want to write curriculum.
Mhm.
I love research, and I wanted to make sure that I was helping them in the way that would best serve them. And so I combined human development with counselor education and with the ability to actually be an educational specialist as well.
Okay.
So I learned how to do assessments, behavioral assessments, psychological assessments, and juvenile justice assessments.
All
So
right.
I figured at some point, I'll get to use all of this, right? For the lack of being just, like you say, a geek, I love learning.
Mm-hmm.
I love learning. So I got with an amazing school counselor, and then I met an amazing clinician that said, "Why aren't you doing therapy?"
Mm-hmm.
And I avoided it for years. I avoided it for years. I said, "Why would I sit down with one person?" I I then quickly became an assistant principal.
Okay.
So I did school counseling for 10 years for I did school counseling actually for 18 years. And I did and then I ended up doing administration assistant principal for 13 years. Whew, wow.
So in the school
Um,
system for
in the school system, as
Mhm.
well as being a educational diagnostician, but an educational specialist, where I would actually contract with charter board schools, making
Okay.
sure that kids knew what they were doing, right? And they were getting the work that they needed, the help that they needed. And they still wasn't enough. And I actually went into private practice after I finished my doctorate in 2008. I came back into private practice after also contracting with hospitals and other contracts as well. And I love it. I get to do all the geeky stuff that I wanted to do in my own practice. I help leaders. I get to assess people. I get to help them with the actual diagnosis that belongs to them. And so that is how I got here. A lot of twists and turns.
Okay. All right. All the journey through the educational system, getting a
Yeah.
doctorate. I love this word, diagnostician, right? Is that the right way
Yes.
to say that? Tell us more about, especially we have a lot of viewers that are new clinicians on their way to full licensure. That's what our postmaster's residency program is. So there's like lots of opportunity for people who are still trying to feel their way out in the field and identify where their niche and their passion is. Tell me about being a diagnostician, and you started in the school system doing it, but I know
Yeah.
now your work is with one of your foci is workplace stress management
Yes.
and then leadership, because your new book is about resilient
Yes.
leadership, and I know we're going to talk
Yes.
about that in a second, but I want to hear more about the journey to becoming a diagnostician and what that actually entails.
Well, that actually entails me. So when I actually became licensed in the state of Maryland, they did something a little different, because I had an unusual journey to becoming a clinician as well as becoming a diagnostician. So for me, because I also have a degree as an educational specialist with a foci in curriculum development and testing,
Mm-hmm.
I took a lot of my, what is it called? Electives is what they're called now, I guess. They're
Mm-hmm.
elective, where I minored in behavioral and actual, the ability to do IQ assessments.
Mm-hmm.
And so when I went into the educational system, I learned how to write IEPs, to how to I was a 504 coordinator. I ended up on, of course, multidisciplinary teams. I know how to read as well as write formal assessments. Um, when I became more into the clinical field, I ended up doing a lot of certifications and um, actually just took classes on how to better keep up my skill set in not only clinical, but also how to give evaluations and assess evaluations. One of my pivots in my journey as an educator was also because my focus was in special education.
Mm-hmm.
And as a special education paraprofessional, I ended up being in a lot of positions where I had to coordinate multidisciplinary teams and also as an assistant principal. So that part made me more, I guess, have the availability to give assessments in areas where, as a clinician, those may not be what we actually do. We do behavioral and psychological assessments. But what I found out in all of my different interests, I could merge them. And so when I became a clinician in Maryland, they didn't know what to do with me because of all the different like caveats that I have. I just needed to be able to be certified and have the clinical, I guess, aptness to not only give the assessments um, in a secure way, but in an authentic way, but also be able to diagnose them without, I'm the one that I can diagnose.
Mm-hmm.
So I could give, for instance, if I give an ADHD assessment, my ADHD assessments are a little different in that I also can infuse them with behavioral assessments because we have certain diagnostic codes that have the same precepts as ADHD. Anxiety may mimic ADHD. So sometimes you get misdiagnosed because um, your diagnosis or your assessments will say one thing, where if you don't break it down a little more, your primary may actually be anxiety that disrupts the way that you concentrate, the way that you focus, the way that you pay attention. And that all sounds like someone with inattentive ADHD, where no, you're anxious and you have to calm your brain and your body down so that you can properly emotionally regulate. So in my journey, I guess I would say that being an educational specialist, focusing in on um, evaluations and assessments, and then becoming, I guess, a geek about how to properly assess and diagnose, and then going after those certifications and those trainings that made me unique in my field and in my profession, so that
Mm-hmm.
I can broaden how I actually help people, but also help people to get to know exactly who they are and what they need to monitor.
Absolutely. That's one of the things that I love about our field and our profession,
Yeah.
that there are so many different paths and so many different ways to pull pieces together to create your ideal practice and to have the career in life that you want as a clinician and to be of service in the best way
Yes.
that fits your strengths. And so I
Yes.
love that. And so having younger or newer clinicians hear that it's not cookie cutter, right? And
No.
you can create the ideal of what you'd like your world to look like. So I want to ask this question, then I want to give Sandra a chance to ask her questions. But
Okay.
what does your therapy doctor, what does your day-to-day kind of look like with your practice, right? Because you're doing things a bit differently with this rich background that you have. I saw that you do work on with emotional intelligence, and you have an EQ bundle, and it looks like you go into corporations and things like that and provide trainings. And then you had an event yesterday. So kind of tell us a
Yes.
little bit about what your world looks like.
Uh, my world is fun. It's exciting. I don't think, well, I know I don't work a day in my life. When I really get to do my passion and purpose. And so what does my day look like? Um, so I started at 6:30. I saw 5 clients by 11, and I ended up then having a meeting, um, talking through some grant proposals, because I am trying to also spearhead a emotional intelligence leadership camp for high schoolers. And
Wonderful.
so, and so, and then I'm doing this podcast today. Yesterday, I am also a continuing education provider, national board certified, to talk about navigating stress in the workplace. And so I have added that to my, what am I doing? I've added that to my repertoire only because I love teaching. I love teaching. And so Monday and Tuesday, I was doing assessments on IQ, and trying to get parents to understand how their youngsters learn, the way that they learn, how they could also assist them in their learning journey. So figuring out their crystallized intelligence versus their emotional intelligence, and what happens when their behavioral intelligence comes into play.
Mm,
So
mhm.
those are interesting conversations to have, and especially when you can get a youngster to know and understand this is a part of you. This isn't all of
Yes, say more right there.
you. Yes. And so when youngsters begin to understand who they are and how they are, they become self-aware. So that's building their emotional intelligence. And
Mhm.
in building their emotional intelligence, they're able to then advocate for themselves because they know who they are, but they also know what their capacity is,
Yes.
right? And so when we get children or youngsters to understand that, and then we get on board with their adult caregivers to understand that, right?
Hmm.
Because a lot of times my younger people are not, they aren't just from families with two-parent homes. They're foster children, or they're children who are displaced, right? And
Hmm.
so they already have a lot of challenges. And so how do we help? And so my day is my week, my month is never kind of the same, but
Yeah.
I love it. I love it. Next week I will be actually in front of a leader of leaders of an executive team who have elected to find out more about emotional intelligence in the workplace. And so, how does that show up for them? So, they have all taken their EQI 2.0 assessments. And of course, the geek in me is, it's Mother's Day weekend. I'm gonna have to cut it off at some point, but I have already dived into, ooh, what does it say? How is it, and how am I going to have these conversations with them, right?
Yes.
Because the unique part of the assessment piece is because I'm a clinician,
Mm-hmm.
that
Yep.
I know the behavioral side of that. And I also know, what it is, that our situations create emotions for us. So, and it
Mm-hmm.
begins with what we think about where we are. And so when we think about that and then our emotions set in, if we don't interrupt or disrupt that, we have behaviors that may not be what we want to show the world.
Exactly, exactly.
So I get to go into leadership and organizations and have those discussions that when you leave home and you walk into your work and you're leading others, if you aren't self-aware, if you don't understand that your emotions actually dictate your behavior
Mhm.
because you don't understand your impact.
Yes. And it's so important for leaders because it's important for everybody, but it's
Everybody.
important for leaders, especially now. We're here in Atlanta, and so we're close to CDC, and we see a lot of people who've been impacted, federal workers and things like that, and
Yeah.
we come across leaders that are dealing with a lot of extra stuff on them that
Oh,
they're trying
yes.
to hold together because they're still trying to be strong to lead their teams, because not everybody can run around with their hair on fire in panic. And so they're like, trying to,
Oh, absolutely.
but they have to, again, put the oxygen mask on themselves so that they could be there and show up and continue to lead in ways that at least provide at most the safety that they can
Yes.
provide in a very
Yes.
uncertain time. So very, very important, that emotional
So
intelligence within
what if
leaders.
you are the leader of your home?
Mm.
Yeah, yeah, right. We're talking about in the workplace, but that leadership is not just in the workplace.
But what
Leadership
what
can be at
what
home,
if
right?
the
Yeah.
but what if home is your workplace, right?
Hmm.
Because I'm going to sit down also in 2 weeks with a organization of moms.
Hmm. Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
And so they're just taking the EQ assessment as well because they want to see how they fare. Because when we talk about emotional intelligence, we're talking about, those pillars that are not only just what we take into the workplace. We have those things at home. How are you coexisting and co-leading with your partner? What are those leadership skills, right? What are those emotional intelligent skill sets that you need, not only just to be in the workplace? So when I go into organizations and talk about emotional intelligence, I make it very clear that there really is no distinction about how you behave at home. It will show up somewhere else. How you are at work, come on. You done showed out somewhere else
Yeah.
in your life.
Oh, oh. Yes, do not get caught cursing the cashier out at the grocery store. Do not do it.
Look, look here. So emotional intelligence is just
Listen.
that staple that I love introducing, but also love helping others develop, because it is the one thing, just like mental health, we will not ever be able to get out away from, or get out of.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it really is how we think, how we feel, and how we behave, and our ability to emotionally regulate when we don't get our way or things don't go our way.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
I love
Sandra,
it.
Sandra, you're muted.
So I have so many questions for you right now because you just opened up this big old can and all the worms are flying out.
Let's
And I'm
go.
like,
Let's
okay,
go.
which one am I gonna catch first? So let me go on. Let me go back. Let me go back. I'm gonna have to be Dr. D right now. Let's go all the way
I
back
love
on that
it.
arc.
I love it. Let's go.
And my first question is, whew, that emotional intelligence in your home. How do you
Woo.
work with that or work through it with a narcissistic person and their behaviors? That so just oh
Are we talking about just the narcissistic person, or are we talking about a narcissistic person who is in the home with a partner?
yes, the narcissistic person that's in a home with a partner.
And so here's the thing, because a narcissistic person does not think or believe that there's anything wrong with them.
Mm-hmm.
So if I'm working with a narcissistic person, it's almost like working with a borderline personality,
Okay.
right? But it's also
Mm.
the other person that I'm more concerned about.
Okay.
And the reason being is that emotional intelligence in relationships, and I love that part. Ooh, I love it. Emotional intelligence in relationships is that there's something in that relationship that feeds you
Yeah.
that is also feeding a trauma.
Mm. Mm-hmm.
And so if you're talking about emotional intelligence with a narcissistic person, theirs is limited, right? Not that it's not possible to get them to be more aware, because most of the time they are extremely aware of who they are dealing with. The person is unaware of who they are dealing with, because there are other things going on in the background. Narcissistic people actually have underlying um, things that are going on, such as maybe prior trauma. Um, they built this persona to protect something. What's that?
Mm.
Right?
Yeah.
If you think so, now it's getting into what what negative emotion is being fed.
Mm.
And
Okay.
then with the partner, if you know this is happening, and most of the time you don't, most people who are with narcissistic people, they are already traumatized within themselves, right? Something is going on. It may not be to the detriment of a level 4 or 5 diagnosis. It may be that of you know, a need, um, abandonment issues, control issues. Um, they may be feeling that, you know, they are the hero of this story. And that makes them feel good that somebody needs them or wants them, no matter how bad it gets. Love may be an issue that is, misconstrued or skewed because it was viewed or shown in a very unhealthy way. And so it's so many things to dive in terms of emotional intelligence in
Yeah.
that type of relationship, because you're also dealing with some mental health and wellness issues that have not been addressed yet.
Okay. Okay. Thank you. Okay, now I got to pull you another way.
Okay, come
So
on.
as a new clinician, I'm one of those people that I'm like you and Dr. D. I want to learn everything. And so I get in my own way sometimes because I want to learn too much. And it's like, okay, then I start doing the
Yeah.
imposter syndrome thing. And so it's like, okay, Sandra, focus. So my question is, as a new clinician who's interested in doing more in assessments, what route would you recommend?
You need
Any
to first
kind.
start with your board.
Okay.
Start with your board to see what do you need in terms of being able to do proper assessments,
Okay.
right? With that, you also need to get the proper certification and training because these aren't light assessments. These aren't just A and B type assessments, which is how we categorize assessment. These are level C or psychological assessments that actually have other types of um, diagnoses that are not in the clinical field because we don't diagnose those things, right?
Mhm.
You have to have a certain level of certification and training for it. Like the WISC and the WASC, they not only are able to diagnose intellectual abilities or intellectual ranges. They are also, you can also take a look at dyslexia, reading, dysgraphia, different types of things that may be going on. Uh, Even when you're looking in, and so I had a interesting person who stuttered, um, and but they didn't know that they stuttered
Mm.
because they were doing it in their mind and partially out. And so there was a kind of a misstep in that. No, the anxiety got so abrupt, it actually disrupted how they use their executive function. And so you're able to see and do so much that proper training is definitely necessary, but also different states will allow different things depending on what you have gotten yourself trained, certified, and the proper hours of supervision. Like I didn't just start this, right?
Right.
I have been in the presence and tutelage of some amazing psychologists, as well as special educators who just taught me how to read, to write, and to properly scale for a proper diagnosis.
Mm.
But I'm also, it is 2025. I am this year 33 years into my life's journey and career.
Love it. I love it. It
Girl.
gives hope. It gives hope. And everybody
Yes.
needs some hope. Yeah, I
Yeah.
love
Oh,
it.
absolutely. But start with your passion. Find out what your board or your licensing department will allow, and then go from there to see what is it that you would want to do. And a lot of times it is just your training and certification in a particular area.
Now I
Mhm.
got to go back to the first thing we talked about, which was the parents, the working with the children, and then connecting their behavior with those that of the parents. And many times we know that the children are experiencing the backlash from the trauma of the parent.
Yes.
What are some things that you would encourage therapists or mental health counselors or the case managers, social workers, whomever, and how to maneuver and navigate between the two? Because you're most of the time they're working with, if it's a child in the juvenile system, you're working with in changing the behavior and the thought pattern of the child, but then you release that child back into the care of the home and you haven't healed the home. So, and I this
Wow.
this
Yeah.
is me right here all day, every day. So, can you please impart some wisdom on how we can, to the best of our ability, heal the home?
You almost have to do a I guess social workers use macro and micro systems. Um, as clinicians, we're trained, LPCs are trained a little different than LSWs in terms of mental health and behavioral health. And so they know systems and they know how to get proper resources. What actually is needed is you almost have to do a parallel approach. When I work with parents who are struggling with raising children or have adult or children that are struggling, it's because I will say this, and this is my professional opinion, and me working with um, different populations that I've worked with. Um, Everything comes down to uh, people feeling safe, people feeling secure. Those are not the same thing. People feeling protected, and people having a support system. If they fear, if they feel abandoned, if they don't feel as if they have a village, or at least someone that cares enough to understand, I'm scared,
Yeah.
right? I'm scared. Um, and we don't say that lightly. It makes people feel vulnerable. It makes people feel as if they're showing, all the wounds, right? But we have to get down to that, because if you have children that misbehave, you have parents who are parenting out of trauma because they don't feel safe, they don't feel secure, they are also struggling. And we're like, why can't you parent your child? Why can't you? Da, 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 da. Well, they can't if the child in them is misbehaving.
That part.
Yep.
So you got a
Exactly.
child who is traumatically misbehaving and a grown adult trying to parent a child who's just a child,
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
right?
And I love that, Dr. Pauline. I love that you broke out that, because that we know that the foundation is safety. But
Yes,
I love that you broke it out in those nuanced ways, because safe, secure, and protected are
yes,
actually three different things.
different.
Different things. And we kind of lump them in as safety, but they are three different things. And really, again, that nuance, that granularity of
Yes.
understanding, that's why we have awareness, acceptance, and action, because we need to get to that granularity, because that's how we can make difference. Oh, I love it. I love it.
Yes.
I love
Can
Yes.
you
Yes.
even
Yes.
it.
elaborate
Yes.
more on safety and security so when they hear this podcast, they can know the difference? Because we do get that confused. We do.
So safety has to do with the fact that, you know what? Um, I can look out around me and it's external. And I don't see a threat. I don't see this. I'm good where I am, right? When I talk about being secure, that means that I have a layer of I have somebody I can go to. When I break down, I may not feel this space may not be safe, but I know a place I can go to that feels safe. Um, so your security is actually attached to those things that are external that will fortify your safety,
Mhm.
right?
Yeah.
Being protected, meaning that there's something else, there's someone else. Those things are external.
Yeah. Yeah.
But here's the other thing, and this is what I am also having to pour into my clients, but also what I'm finding in leadership. When you have not given yourself permission to own safety,
Mm.
to secure you, to do the things that you need to do because only you know what it may feel like to be protected.
Mm.
Yeah.
You talked about that narcissistic home. Something in there is making that partner feel safe in the midst of chaos,
Mm.
feel protected in the midst of chaos,
Mm.
right? And so, but if you don't have that within yourself, when you don't look in and say, you know what? Ugh, I'm always on edge.
Yeah.
I don't know what to do with myself, right? So those things are different because they have layers to them.
Yes. Yes. And
Yeah.
so what I'm hearing you say in some ways is that that safety is really the foundation and kind of the grounding, that sense of self. Maybe it's the capacity, maybe it's the competence, maybe it's the trusting of oneself and their
Yeah.
ability to whatever. And then the secure, it's like when I closed and locked the door before we started,
Yeah.
right? I closed and locked the door. And then the protected is because we've got the security guard Davy upstairs at the guard desk. So
There you go. Right. So there's layers, right? And you know, if something breaks through one, there's something else that's going to cover you,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And when we know that, oh, we feel safe because even if somebody unlocks the door, they come.
yeah, Davy
He
comes.
coming, right?
Yep.
He's like, wait, let me find Dr. Dad. Where you, right? He's finding you, right? But you know that in the back of your mind. You know, but you also
Mm.
went through those layers to say, you know what? I'm good. Sit right here.
I love it.
Yes.
Thank you.
Yes. Yeah. So, so Pauline, that we're talking about this is is this related to your heart framework? So I want to say something
Yeah.
I want to read something really quickly. So in the heart of resilient leadership, Dr. Pauline Belton delivers a transformative guide for today's leaders who are ready to deepen their emotional intelligence, strengthen their leadership impact, and build healthier and more connected teams. Through her powerful heart framework, she equips readers with the tools to lead authentically, navigate change with confidence, and cultivate trust and safety within their organizations. And so it talks about that trust and safety. And so I'm wondering about this heart framework. And I want to hear a little bit more about this. We're also going to put the link to Dr. Belton's book in the show notes as well. So,
Okay. Thank you. Thank you. Oh my gosh. This has been a labor, right? Because there's so much in my brain. And it's so much in my brain. And I'm like, how can I package this for people when we talk about emotional intelligence? When we talk about feeling safe, feeling secure, feeling protected. Um, feeling whole, right?
Yeah.
Because in my belief system, um, home transfers to work, work will transfer to home if you aren't careful about how you balance that with harmony, right? And so when I look at the heart framework and we have the book,
Yes.
we have the book. It's now in print. I had to take a look at what does it really mean for resilience to build in a person? Because I not only want it to happen at home and with their teams, we have relationships in homes as well. You have relationships with your partner, with your children. So this book, I want to transcend not just the workplace.
Mm-hmm.
So the heart of it means H. I need you to harness, meaning I want you to wrap yourself into being aware of who you are and how you impact your environment, no matter where you are. You impact others as well as others impacting you. And if you aren't aware of how people may impact you or how you may impact others, you disrupt an environment just by you being there, right? And that's hard. So you got to understand yourself before you start leading others. Who are you leading? The other part is that elevate emotional agility. Learn how to regulate your emotions.
Mm-hmm.
Learn how to respond to challenges, not react to them. Right? You know, understand where those triggers are coming from. You know, because they compound and compact to the point that it causes you stress, and we get reactive when we're stressed. Right?
Yes.
We think somebody sees something that we don't want them to see. And so the H is to activate empathy and connection. That means foster those strong relationships through trust. But you first have to be able to trust you.
Yep.
Right?
Mm-hmm.
You know, a lot of times leaders come to work and they're like, hey, let's just do this. you know, maybe if I make them afraid of me, or maybe if I bully them, or maybe if I da 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 da, and all of those things, and none of those things are it. It is when you trust you, you can't help but to exude that somebody else can trust you too.
Absolutely, absolutely. And things like imposter syndrome get in the way of that because a lot of times
Yes,
in our field in particular,
absolutely.
leaders are elevated on longevity and not skill and merit and talent.
Yes, and it is
So they go
destroying.
into these, they get elevated to leadership roles, but they're having so much imposter syndrome that it's coming out like you're saying, like, oh, I need to, scare them, or they just don't have
Yes.
the EQ that you're talking. So good, please continue. Yes, that's great.
So when people say that whole imposter syndrome, you know what I hear when I hear that?
Uh-huh.
Anxiety.
Oh, absolutely. Imposter syndrome is a weapon of anxiety.
Yes.
Anxiety has a lot of weapons, and imposter syndrome is just one of them.
Absolutely. When I hear imposter syndrome, it's just that you aren't sure of you.
Yeah.
You may have the knowledge, you may have the platform, you may have everything you need. You aren't sure of you.
Yep.
And so we say imposter syndrome because it is the mask to I'm scared.
Really, it is.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's really what it is.
Yes.
And and so then we move to the R in the heart. You know, reinforce that purpose and vision. And just like we have in the workplace, you know, there's always a purpose. There's a vision statement. There's a mission statement. But how many leaders actually know what their mission statement and vision statement is?
Mm.
And then how can you expect to lead with confidence when you're not sure what you're leading your team with?
Yeah.
Let's transfer that to home. If when you're raising a family, if you don't have a mission and a vision about how you want to actually raise your family and have your family grow,
Exactly.
who are you raising? And what are you raising? Because if you don't show up with an agenda, guess what? Somebody else will have a hidden agenda for you.
Yep.
Workplace or home, right? So,
Hmm.
and children can smell when when you're not sure of you.
Yep.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
They'll be like, "You sure about that? Sure? Are you sure about that?" Right?
Yeah.
And you have to be, even if it's on paper.
Yeah.
Because I say to leaders this way: you have to know your policies, your procedures, and your protocols. Because when you're unsure about you, those three things give you confidence to not manage people, but manage processes.
Yep. Yes.
And until you can get you straight, do what is right so that people trust that in the midst of trying to trust you,
Absolutely. Yes.
right?
Yes. Yes. You lead people and manage processes and not
Yes.
the
And
other
it
way around.
absolutely.
Hmm.
Yes. And so that way you can then transform and grow any team, any family, any relationship when you have developed those necessary skills to know and understand, I got this. But not only do I have this, let me tell you how I got it.
Mm.
I know
Uh-huh.
who I am. I can emotionally regulate. I can assist somebody else and know when they need to be emotionally regulated. Because emotional intelligence is not just about knowing how, and understanding me, but I have to be able to look at the people around me and get a clue, buy a clue, claim a clue, um, about how they're feeling. If you're walking into your home and your partner, your spouse is not communicating, disconnected, but you going on about life and relationship like, oh, everything is fine. And then when they walk out the door, you like, well, where you going? Well, you're not tuning into me. You're not considering me. Oh, I do. I see you every day. And how many of us go to work and we don't have a clue who we're working with?
Sure.
We know that some people are disruptive when they come to work. And that's great. That's fine. Here's the issue with that. People don't want to feel bad.
Yeah.
People don't want to come to work to feel bad.
No.
You know, and actually when if they have a job, if they have a career, it's something that they trained for. It's something that they really put effort into doing. And then they meet you. And so they're not quitting their passion, they're quitting you.
Hmm.
And I said in the book, people don't quit jobs, they quit people.
Hmm.
So yes, I love this framework and it took me a while to get to it, but I needed it to be actionable and measurable.
Yeah.
Because
Okay.
that's that geeky part of me. I love data. I
Yeah.
love data. I love data, and it's tied so much into the assessments that I do for leaders, but it also ties into the assessments that I give individual people to find out their emotional intelligence, but also their reaction to what doesn't work.
Wonderful. Well, the book sounds amazing. And like I said, we're going to put the link in the show notes so people can
Thank
gain
you.
access to it and really look at and utilize this heart framework and, improve the relationships at home and in their workplace.
And in the workplace. And once they get that heart framework, there is also another approach in the book.
Okay.
And I need to say this part because sometimes we don't have the words.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes we don't know what to say because we're so used to miscommunicating and also being reactive. And
Yes.
so we say things off the cuff, right?
Yes.
And
Mm-hmm.
so in the book, there is a care approach.
Okay.
A care approach, and that what does that mean? Care approach means that it's a wellness feedback. It's how you give feedback, but also have courageous conversations that not only takes care of the mission and goal that you have for what your person is supposed to do or what your team is supposed to be doing, but it also gives you an opportunity to take a look at, well, what are they thinking that this made sense? Or what is happening that they missed this deadline?
Mm.
We run over those things where you're dismissing the fact that you're dealing with human capital
Yes.
and not just capital,
Mm.
Mm.
Yeah,
Ooh, yes.
right? And
exactly.
so you have to put it into the C is for context. Frame the discussion where there's a shared goal and a mutual outcome. Affirmation. Recognize that there's strengths and contributions before you decide to destroy a person where they are.
Come
Something is
on
going
now.
on.
Come
Something is
on
going on.
now.
And then let's be reflective about inviting that self awareness and that collaboration, so that you don't just criticize, but you also build resilience and build in that next step for them to grow. Everybody will make a mistake. They're human. We're human. It's what's happening that this mistake is happening like this,
Yeah.
right? What is going on, right? And then after you do that and you have those discussions, then end it with some encouragement. You know what? We got this. We can do this. We
Mm.
just need to come together because I understand you got some things going on. But however, our mission is to do this. And the company and I know that you can do this. I need you to come in alignment. So how do I need to help you?
Yep.
Yes.
Help yourself.
Yep.
Help yourself because this is going we need some improvement, but I need your help to know and understand what that improvement is going to be. This is what I need. This is what the company needs. What support do you need and how do you need it done?
Yes. Oh, I love that. Oh, wow. Yes, I
Yes.
can't wait to get my hard copy of the book.
Oh my God.
Oh,
You need
You
to
see
make
yes.
why
this
I am
into a
such a geek?
full
I
2 day
love
to
these
3 day
things.
conference. Oh yeah. This needs to be a 2 to 3 day conference, your book. Oh
Oh,
my
Yes.
God.
oh, it's coming. It's
Oh
coming.
my God.
It's
Yeah.
coming. It's coming in June, actually, in June. And I'll share that with you later. We are actually developing a free webinar
Okay.
to just get everyone um, on board with the Heart of Resilient Leadership
Mm.
Academy.
Oh, okay.
Because we're going to talk about it's more than just building resilience. It's how do we address stress?
Yes.
Mm. Yep.
Mm-hmm.
How do we address those cognitive distortions that disrupt and impede our ability to be all that we can be, not only in the workplace, but at home. Because I
Yeah.
don't want people to just think about being great at work and then you get home and you're wreaking havoc there.
Yeah.
Right.
We need to
Yeah.
have whole lives. We need to be great, and we need to build the capacity in ourselves and others to support what that looks like, sound like, and feel like every single day.
Absolutely.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Oh, this has been such a wonderful discussion, Dr. Pauline. I've enjoyed this so much. So, our final question that we ask all of our guests here at
Okay.
on the Geeky Clinicians podcast is, what is your best hope? What is your best hope for our field, for our profession, for the work that we do? What are your best hopes for the future of our profession?
My best hope for the future is that we be a part of that solution.
Mm.
Um, I actually went back into teaching at our local university. I am a proud bulldog at the Bowie State University. And so it's getting back and giving back. I am also an approved supervisor for our young people coming through the field because we it's a wide range. And
Mm-hmm.
so my best hope is that um, the young ones or people coming into our field come in with a sense of not only urgency, but a sense of protectiveness. Um, we're in the field of mental health,
Yeah.
um, and that that's heavy. Mental health, that means people are struggling where they are.
Mm-hmm.
And so if the best hope is that you're coming in and you want to be of service and not do further damage.
Yeah.
Um, that you take it seriously enough to say, you know what, this is where I can grow and do the work,
Yes.
do the work, network, find your connective collective so that you can not only grow, but learn from those who have been here, who have been doing the work. I learn from my young people and they learn from me um, because they know some new stuff. I was like, what is that? Or I can say to them, oh, you're just talking about this theory. It's just packaged this way. And so
Mm-hmm.
I give them a different way of thinking about it because they think they're doing something different and it's pulling it together, right? And so
Mm-hmm.
my best hope is that we be a part of the solution and that it's met with those coming in, that there is a sense of urgency, but there's a sense of protectiveness that needs to go with that competency to do the work the way that it is meant to be done. And that's with
Yes.
civility. And that's with some civility.
Yeah.
Um, we are we are dealing with human capital, and I cannot say that enough. That people just want to be seen and not just be seen. You
Yeah.
know.
Exactly. Oh, wonderful. This has been so wonderful. Thank you so much for your time. Thank you for joining us. We greatly appreciate it. And to all the viewers out there, if you have not already, please like, subscribe, share this, spread the word, buy the book in the show notes. Definitely. Thank you guys. All right, bye. We'll see you at the next episode.
Bye.